Good day. This is an historic moment for America. We'll have full summit coverage here in 5, 4, 3. Sean, Dan, and I will run through the day. This is the morning meeting on two-way. We have lots to tell you about the summit. The president moments ago on Air Force One talked for 6 minutes. We're going to play the whole thing for you about the summit. No big news, but does set the table nicely. We'll have some of the pre-reaction from around the world, including from Hillary Clinton, Don Jr., and more. And really, the only other story is a little bit of two developments in D.C. overnight. One, Pam Bondi basically put the head of the DA in charge of the D.C. police, and that's not sitting well with the mayor and the current police chief. And this operation seems to be moving to include immigration enforcement, which also is not sitting well with some people. For those of you who are wondering, the mayor of D.C. was not vacationing on Martha's Vineyard. She was just picking up her daughter from camp and bringing her back. Before I hear more about that, we'll talk a little bit about the Senate.
Maybe she played golf while she was there. Who knows?
She might have. She might have. Maybe.
I will have something to say on that.
Anyway,
reserving my time.
Okay. In any event, we are gonna. Sorry, I just need to look at one thing. We are gonna talk all about the summit, and like I said, there's really nothing else. As Dan said, August Friday. There was some economic data released, but whatever. Yeah, anyway,
that's not insignificant stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk about that in a moment. What I want to do now is this. We're gonna play for you the 6 minutes of the president on Air Force One, but I'm gonna ask you for a favor while we play it. Put up number 117, please. This program is now available as a podcast, as you know, on Apple and on Spotify and wherever else you get your podcasts. And here are the ratings on the Apple podcast ratings from just a few minutes ago. Take a look. You can see the morning meeting there is number, what do we number?
60.
68? What does that say?
I think that's a...
What does that say? 58?
No, that's a 55,
okay.
59.
58. Okay, forget the number, though. Dan is very upset that we're behind Ted Cruz. And Sean
and Jen Psaki, yeah.
Well, forget that. You just don't want to be behind Ted Cruz. And Sean's very upset to be behind, what's that guy's name from MSNBC? All In. Who's that guy?
Chris Hayes.
His name? Chris Hayes. Oh. So what I'm going to ask you to do, whether you're watching here on the two-way platform, or if you raise your hand, you get in the conversation like no other, or whether you're watching on YouTube, while you're listening to President Trump, you got 6 minutes to do this. Grab some other device and please go on Apple or Spotify. But Apple, if you want to affect this ratings, and please subscribe to the Morning Meeting podcast. All right, just do that for us, and let's see if we can move so Dan can pass Ted Cruz and Sean can pass Chris Hayes. Okay, so again, I'm asking this of all of you, even if you don't love podcasts, please grab your phone, Apple or Spotify, subscribe to the podcast. Here we go. This is moments ago, President of the United States. Well, first, I'll show you walking. We'll show you walking it to Air Force One. This is here you go. There you go. This was a couple about 90 minutes ago, I think. And after he boarded, he came back and he talked to the press for about 6 minutes. So listened in full. But again, I'll be doing some spot checks. Once this plays, we're going to come back. I'm going to call on some of you and say, hey, so-and-so, Doug Carey, did you subscribe to the podcast? And I'll maybe ask for proof. So again, please everyone subscribe to the podcast as you listen. This is the President of the United States talking to the pool on Air Force One moments ago.
They're buying our weapons and we're sending them to NATO, and NATO's sending us big, beautiful checks. But I don't care about that. I care about, it was a big factor when Biden spent $350 billion and got nothing. But what I do care about is they lost last week, 7,011 people were lost, almost all soldiers. 36 people in a town which got hit by a missile. But over 7,000 soldiers. It's crazy.
Can you describe a little bit, Mr. President, because I know you've had a lot of phone calls with President Putin. What's the difference in a face-to-face, in-person meeting?
Look, he's a smart guy, been doing it for a long time, but so have I. Been doing it for a long time. And here we are, we're president. That was much more difficult than what I'm doing today, believe me. So, we get along. There's a good respect level on both sides, and I think something's going to come of it. I noticed He's bringing a lot of business people from Russia, and that's good. I like that because they want to do business, but they're not doing business until we get the war settled.
Are you going to talk about business? Would you talk
business? We have the hottest country on earth. We have the hottest economy on earth. We have the hottest country. We just set a new stock market record again. We have hundreds of billions of dollars flowing in from tariffs. We're the hottest. We were a dead country, dead like doornails, a dead country. 1 year ago, we were dead as a doornail, and now we have the hottest country. And he wants a piece of that because his country is not hot economically. In fact, it's the opposite. And China's not doing well economically, but we're all, look, I want everybody to do well. The war's got to stop and the killing's got to stop.
Mr. President, what do you stop? Thank you for coming back to take questions. We saw that Russia continued its violence into Ukraine last night, launching even more drones. What did you make of that?
I think they're trying to negotiate. He's trying to set a stage. I mean, in his mind, that helps him make a better deal. It actually hurts him. But in his mind, that helps him make a better deal if they can continue the killing. Maybe it's a part of the world. Maybe it's just his fabric, his genes, his genetics. But he thinks that makes him, gives him strength in negotiating. I think it hurts him, but I'll be talking to him about it later.
On the table for discussions today, Mr. President, are the territorial swaps on the table? Will you be discussing that?
They'll be discussed, but I've got to let Ukraine make that decision. And I think they'll make a proper decision. But I'm not here to negotiate for Ukraine. I'm here to get them at a table. And I think you have two sides. Look, Vladimir Putin wanted to take all of Ukraine. If I wasn't president, he would right now be taking all of Ukraine. But he's not going to do it.
Mr. President, what did you mean?
Just one thing. What about the possibility of the United States providing security guarantees to Ukraine?
Maybe. Along with Europe and other countries. Not in the form of NATO, because that's not going to, there are certain things that aren't going to happen. But yeah, along with Europe, there's a possibility of that.
Mr. President, mixing the number of business people that President Putin is bringing along, is that something that you want to discuss with President Putin at this meeting?
Yeah, if we make progress, I would discuss it, because that's one of the things that they would like. They'd like to get a piece of what I built in terms of the economy. Just so you know, we were a dead country with our economy. He wouldn't be interested. He wouldn't have been interested a year ago with the Biden economy. But he is interested in the Trump economy because we're doing. Wait till you see when those factories start opening up. We have hundreds of factories all over the country, and that includes auto factories, AI factories, and every other. They're all coming in because they want to beat the tariffs. Because if they open here, they don't have to pay tariffs. If they don't open here, they have to pay, in some cases, 200%, 300%. I haven't even set some of the tariffs yet. I'll be setting tariffs next week and the week after on steel and on, I would say, chips. Chips and semiconductors. We'll be setting sometime next week, week after.
What rate are you looking at? What rate?
I'm going to have a rate that is going to be lower at the beginning. Then that gives them a chance to come in and build. And very high after a certain period of time. And if they don't build here, they have to pay a very high tariff, which doesn't work, so they'll come and build.
Mr. President, hi. You had said earlier...
Isn't he a gentleman? He's a nice...
He's helping me out.
He's a very nice... He's one of the few nice ones, actually.
You had said earlier this week that Putin would face severe consequences if you get the sense from him that he's not interested. What do you mean by that?
Economically severe. Yes, it will be very severe. I'm not doing this for my health, okay? I don't need it. I'd like to focus on our country, but I'm doing this to save a lot of lives. Yeah, very severe. Thank you very much, everybody.
One thing. All right,
I see. I don't read the chat, but I glance. Some of you are having trouble. You can follow, or you can download, or you can like. Depends on what platform you're on. But Mary, did you go and subscribe to the podcast, Mary? All right. Hopefully you all did that. All right. Here's some of the way the story is being framed by news organizations on the television side from around the world. 103, please.
So Russian President Vladimir Putin is seeking to strengthen his rapport with Donald Trump ahead of their summit later in Alaska. The US president, meanwhile, is downplaying prospects for the talk, saying yesterday that a follow-up involving Ukraine's leader will be more important.
And we are standing about 4,275 miles away from the White House. It is a long way for Air Force One to come later on this hour, but President Trump thinks once he gets here, he'll be able to feel Putin out within 2 minutes.
And Donald Trump says he believes Vladimir Putin is ready to make a deal as the two leaders prepare for talks in Alaska later.
Ukraine's fate hangs in the balance, and it all hinges on the self-proclaimed deal-maker-in-chief going one-on-one with the Russian leader.
President Trump preparing to meet Vladimir Putin as Mr. Trump pushes for a truce in the war between Russia and Ukraine. This will be their first face-to-face meeting in years.
And will he push Vladimir Putin to do what no president this century has done? And that is play by the rules of this world order. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe.
All right, one more element, and then we'll hear from Sean and Dan. But quickly tell you that the D.C. government has just sued the Trump administration to say that they're not allowed to take over the police department. Interesting, and we'll talk about that in a moment after we talk about the summit. Here's Hillary Clinton on a podcast, and Dan's going to tell us if this is sarcastic or real, talking about seeming to encourage Donald Trump to go win that Nobel Peace Prize.
Honestly, if he could bring about the end to this terrible war where Putin is the aggressor, invading a neighbor country, try to change the borders, if he could end it without putting Ukraine in a position where it had to concede its territory to the aggressor, had to, in a way, validate Putin's vision of greater Russia, but instead could really stand up to Putin, something we haven't seen, but maybe this is the opportunity, to make it clear that there must be a ceasefire, there will be no exchange of territory, and that over a period of time, Putin should be actually withdrawing from the territory he seized in order to demonstrate his good faith efforts, let us say, not to threaten European security. You know, look, if we could pull that off, if President Trump were the architect of that, I'd nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize, because my goal here is to not allow capitulation to Putin, aided and abetted by the United States.
All right, I was wrong. 3 more quick things. First, do we have the list of people in the U.S. delegation? If we do, get ready to put that up. Here is the president on Truth Social, 110, very short post, but high stakes, exclamation point, exclamation, exclamation point. Here's how Don Jr. is dealing with his apprehension over the summit. 111, please. My dad went to Anchorage, the Anchorage summit, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. That's fake, by the way. I made that. That's not real, but I thought that was funny. Hope you did too. Anyway, do we have the list of people going to the summit? Maybe we do, but anyway, it includes Secretary Bessent, as we thought it might. It does not include Secretary Hegseth, as we thought.
Doesn't include J.D. Vance. One of us said I thought he'd go.
It does or it doesn't?
We don't have the updated list, Mark.
Go ahead and put it up. You're saying you think the vice president's going? Okay, thank you. You think the vice president?
He is going. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you base that on? What do you guys base that on? It's not on the White House list.
Paul sent last night.
Yeah, that list was not the official list. The official list does not have the vice president. Now, I'm not saying he's not going, but he's not.
I think he's meeting him there.
Yeah, well,
he'd be on a separate plane.
What are you basing that on? Dan, what are you basing that on?
I'm basing it on the list that was distributed in our group chat last night.
Yeah, but I wouldn't base it on that list because that wasn't a real list. The real don't take that down. That's not a real list. Take that down. I don't know where that list came from.
Fake news, folks. Fake news.
But the White House pool was given a list today, and it does not include the vice president. So
okay, I thought that list was the people that are on the plane with him.
No, well,
and just out of protocol wise, the vice president never flies with the president.
It's like the two people who know the recipe for Coke. They don't fly together.
Well, it's also like Michael and Janet. You don't put them in the same place.
Exactly. Or Dan and Sean. Never seen them in the same place except when we were in Sean's kitchen.
All right.
So Sean,
that was a huge security issue.
Let's talk. It was. We're near the vice president's house and your high school friend. Let's talk about the president first, and what you heard in his voice there. He loves big set pieces. So, I mean, part of him's excited to be the center of world attention, to be sure. But this is high stakes. So listening to him, based on what you know, how would you describe? You think he's excited, nervous, expectant? How would you describe him?
I've been around him during the campaign in the White House for some pretty big issues. I've never seen the guy nervous. Whether he is or isn't, he doesn't show it. So I don't think he's nervous. I do think he understands the importance of the moment. What I would say that I heard a little bit more that was interesting is a little bit more on the deals than the peace. And that's where I think they have to be careful. I get it. And I've heard some people talk about the sequencing, which is the president should say, I love this discussion. I'm excited for the potential investment or the additional trade, but we cannot talk about that until, right? That's where I do worry about the manifest on that, because if you're bringing your people that do that work, that's sort of tipping your hand that you're willing to have that discussion.
Yeah, the fact that Bessent's there, but not the defense secretary, for people who are worried about that. Dan, just first on Hillary, she was being sarcastic there, right?
Yeah, slightly. Yep, I love her. Yep, okay. It's awesome.
Yeah. Lightly.
Yeah.
She was basically like, look, this is the woman who handed a reset button over and is now saying, if you can do all of these things, no land exchanges, then I'll support. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It was like, if you could help the sun come up in the morning.
Yeah. Dan, is your sense that the president has a plan here? Obviously, they've shifted from a few days ago. We were talking about how they're just all about lowering expectations, and they seem to be pretty raised now. His post on Truth Social, the way he's describing, it now is a lot more. And there's even talk now that that Zelensky's got a plane waiting to fly him in if that's what makes sense. So, how do you feel about the president's posture, both attitudinally and tactically, going into this?
He's the greatest showman on earth. I mean, that's why I said earlier this week, I thought he was lowering expectations to exceed them and have the big, reveal. Oh, I think he definitely sees this as a grand theater. I think he's in his element. He loves this. The entire world is hanging on his every word. Everyone will be tuning into that press conference and what he has to say. I think the question is, what is it? And to your point, not just Scott Bessent, Howard Lutnick is there. My thought is that Putin is going to try to flatter him, talk about the Trump economy, how wonderful and does he keep, as Sean said, does he have the discipline to say, not now, we're not going there until I get what I want, which is a conversation about peace. Putin is such a good strategic thinker, and he understands flattery as well as anybody.
Yeah. So
I will say this, all of these people that are traveling with him, and especially Rubio, who's dual-hatted right now, I think understand that, right? And they've told him, JD has obviously done a lot of spade work going into this week. I just got to believe that's Trump gets just as much world accolades by coming out and saying he didn't agree to this until then, and I told him this. I think he knows that. He understands what the world's going to, how they're going to view this meeting.
Yeah. So in theory, I don't, based on what I've been told and what I've read, I don't know what's going to happen on the front end. I don't know what the photo op's going to look like. Like, is there a handshake? Is there a photo op in the room? Are they going to take questions on the front end? I think that's all possible. Then they're supposed to have a private meeting. Then there's supposed to be a lunch with the delegations. And then in theory, a 2-person press conference if the president says the meeting goes well. If the meeting doesn't go well, I think we'll see a one-on-one. Putin, according to the Associated Press, began traveling yesterday from Moscow towards Alaska. And I've read nothing, and I've asked people and I've gotten no reply about the president's prep from the intelligence community. Because normally when a president goes to meet with somebody like this, the intelligence community prepares a briefing that says, here's what to look for. Here are the things that have happened in the past. Sean, do you think this president got such a briefing? Or he's like, I don't need that. I get the guy.
Oh, no. I mean, how it manifested itself, whether it was on the plane or, sitting around the Oval, there's no question there was not prep. I just don't know if it was one-on-one with the CIA briefer but remember, again, Marco Rubio's running the NSC. So there's no question in my mind they had that discussion.
Yeah. I wonder if it was I mean, often Donald Trump doesn't do things that normal presidents do, that normal presidents would say. I'm doing air quotes, by the way, for those of you listening.
I mean, I just can't see that Trump's going to sit there like a normal,
a normal president would
say, hey, stay away from this issue. Watch. Right. I think he's like,
yeah, that's what I think. But the establishment intelligence community would say this is malpractice if you don't get such a briefing. Putin is a master. Everybody says so. Whatever. My favorite thing Putin ever did in meeting with the world leader is this with Merkel, who is uneasy around dogs, and again for those
more than uneasy, she's terrified.
She's terrified. So those of you listening on the podcast won't see this, but go ahead and play that video. This is they were doing a photo op, and Putin brought one of his dogs with him, and just look at Merkel's eyes. It's just like crazy. So they're sitting down in chairs in the photo op, and there's the dog, and Putin's pulling the dog away, and Merkel can't even look. She's just like swallowing her tongue. She's so terrified. And then the dog runs off. So I know neither of you are Soviologists. We don't have Condi Rice here, but Dan, what do you think Putin's trying to get here?
Well, I think it's not an accident. I forget who it was. Was it Lavrov who showed up in Alaska in a CCP sweatshirt, the old school Soviet Union? I mean, that to me was a little flex of how they're coming in. I think Putin, I mean, I go back to what we've talked about here for the whole time, which is Putin is our enemy, or he sees us as his enemy. And his long game is to regain these territories. So to me, his goal is to keep what he has gained and ultimately expand that with a minimal security presence left in Ukraine. I think his goal is to flatter. I really do. Try to establish a working relationship and just flatter Trump and see if he can get Trump to agree that, hey, I'll pump money and I'll say how great you are. I'll say the economy is great, and that's why there's opportunities. And you're not going to, ultimately ensure Ukraine's long-term security.
Yeah, Sean, obviously what the president wants is to be able to come out and say, good meeting. Putin wants to end the war. He's agreed to be reasonable. He understands, Ukraine needs what it needs.
Do you think it's that Putin wants to end the war, or he says Putin wants to be partners, like some sort of
he wants conditions so that no one would object to a three-way meeting, right? Yeah. That's what he wants. Sean, what do you think Putin wants? How do you think Putin wants? Is that same way or some other way?
I think an acknowledgement that he gets the land that he's taken, an agreement that there's no peacekeeping or troops on the border of any of those regions, a commitment that Ukraine will never join NATO ever, and some kind of economic thing to show that we have a relationship with the U.S. no matter what it is. Something symbolic to say we're now doing X. We're back. The CCP is back.
Yeah.
We're building land geographically and economically. We're on the march again. So I think that's what he wants.
Nothing, I can tell you from having covered the White House for a time, nothing is more exciting if you're covering a White House than one of these summits. It just feels bigger than everything else. And obviously we all know that the relationship between this White House and this press corps is pretty tetchy. Sean, is the White House press corps rooting for a deal or not?
I got to believe that they want Trump to buy into something that they can say that he sold out. So I know. I don't think they want a deal.
They're rooting for an outcome where they can say Trump's at war with Europe and Zelensky.
Or that he sold out America for his own interests or something.
Okay. Dan, what's the White House press corps rooting for?
Well, there's two halves to that. There's the old school press corps. I agree with Sean. They want to say, see, we told you so. The dominant one, which is the conservative one, is ready to say he's Caesar.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about that, by the way, to Dan's point, when you do stuff like this, these trips cost money. Mark, part of the reason that the pool consists of the ABCs and the Washington Post or whatever is flying on Air Force One, they bill you. And so you have to be able to have the funds and the resources to travel. That's the sort of the dirty little secret that the conservative, that a lot of independent media doesn't want to talk about, is that they can't foot the bill. for a lot of these things. And so how many of them traveled there? I doubt many.
Yeah.
So you're going to rely on Fox and
Well, but the fact that, like, I mean, I was sitting in the chair last night with Sean Hannity. Hannity's going to interview him live on this afternoon. Brett Baer's on the plane. He's going to conservative media is ready. Whatever the game plan with the comm strategy is, conservative media is ready to hail it as. I mean, they are the dominant media.
Well,
they are.
They're dominant media with a small d. I'll say two things. One is I've been trying to get a handle of how many people are going in terms of the press not in the pool. And Sean's right. It's so much smaller than it would have been, even though there's many more news organizations. There are lots of organizations that would have gone unilaterally that aren't going to go. In part, it's on short notice, not the easiest place in the world to get to, but it just is very expensive, and it's unclear what the access is. The other thing is, Sean, I'd agree with you that they're rooting for failure. And this is all guesswork and just fingertip feel. I actually think the press is rooting for success, not because they want the president to succeed, but because they do want that outcome, and also it's a great story if there's a deal. So I think the president may get more favorable coverage than he usually does in this case. All right, let's obviously, when we take your questions, and again, if you're here on the two-way platform with peace, love, and understanding in your heart, please raise your hand if you want to be part of the conversation. Let's talk about the DC thing, and I'll read to you the Politico write-up of this development that just occurred. DC Attorney General Brian Schwabe is suing the Trump administration after the Department of Justice ordered a new, quote, emergency head of the district police, calling it, quote, unlawful. Quote, by legally declaring a takeover of the MPD, the administration is abusing its temporary limited authority under the law. This is the gravest threat to home rule DC, the greatest threat to home rule DC has ever faced, and we are fighting to stop it. The suit filed in federal court is the biggest pushback from city officials since President Trump invoked a provision of the Home Rule Act, which allows the president to request blah, blah, blah. Dan, this program's policy never predict judges, justices, or juries, but the symbolism of this at a minimum is significant because up until now, there'd been a fair amount of fidelity to cooperation. So does this mean, do you think, a two-track where they'll pursue this in court, but even as they do that operationally, they'll continue to cooperate, or do you think that changes the cooperation?
That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see whether people think there's a real chance that DC is going to win this. This to me starts getting a little bit into overreach for the Trump team. Like, I think they were on pretty solid footing, but the headlines that they're now ordering them off on immigration potentially. And one of the things that's really picking up steam now is this show of force is not going into the bad neighborhoods. They're on the mall. They're in like the tourist areas where there's lots of visibility, but those aren't the high crime areas. There's crime there, but the bad areas are like, there's no force arriving. This is when it starts looking like a stunt. And that's the danger for Trump. Like, if you're going to own it, your goal is to crack down for 30, 60 days, but you're telling the police, go do immigration raids. I think he starts losing people, the public.
Well, one of the things that's really interesting about this particular dynamic is Schwab, the DC Attorney General, is a Soros leftist, like, got his own agenda. And the question I have is this in coordination with Mayor Bowser, or is he trying to do something on his own? So this guy, by the police account, by so many, I mean, like, he is a far, far progressive lefty. And so I do wonder if he's doing this on his own, or if this is in court, like a sort of whole of government within DC. Yeah. And I think that's going to be interesting. I will say, just since this will be the only time, whether or not it's true that all the mayor was doing was heading to Martha's Vineyard to pick up her daughter or not, the optics of it and the idea that she didn't think it was worth explaining is politically stupid, right? I get it. And I'll give her the benefit of the doubt that she just happened to be going to Martha's Vineyard to pick up her daughter and was not going to spend any quality time on the island going to, like, the Black Dog or anything. Then I'll give her the benefit of the doubt for this discussion. But the idea that in the middle of a crisis, you didn't get ahead of that, you should fire your team then, because either you're politically stupid or they are. One of the two.
Yeah, she did tweet about it. Here's a tweet from the mayor overnight.
He tweeted after
the fact.
Yeah, half the time Trump's playing golf during this stuff. That doesn't fly anymore after Trump. It just doesn't.
I agree, Dan. 106, please. Here's the mayor tweet overnight. Let's be clear about what the law requires during a presidential declared emergency. It requires the mayor of Washington to provide the services of the police to federal purposes at the request of the president. We have followed the law. So,
I mean, that's if that is in fact like the true, and I'll give her the benefit of the doubt for this. This is where Trump's starting to overreach.
Yeah,
that is not.
Yeah, Michael, just keep checking her Twitter feed and see if she's tweeted in reaction to the Attorney General's filing. All right, we could talk more about this, and we could talk more about the immigration angle, which is interesting. But I want to make sure we leave a lot of time for questions. So let's speed through some other stuff and then go to your questions. Gavin Newsom filed the redistricting plan. They have a digital ad. I don't know if they're putting real money behind it or not, but they've got a lot of work to do to get it on the ballot and then win this fight against what will be a very well-funded opposition. So just one word or one sentence answer each. Will Gavin Newsom win in November? Will this pass, Sean?
I don't think so.
Dan?
Isn't the threshold 60%? I thought there was a higher than a simple majority. Maybe I'm wrong on California ballot initiatives.
I think it's 50, but somebody will check. But I think it's 50. But
or maybe the last time it got 60. Okay.
Dan, will it pass?
I think he'll lose at the ballot, but he's won politically. That map went big and bold, and Democrats are ecstatic.
Yeah.
It's 10 seats.
Yeah. It's not 10 seats.
Nine.
Well, no. They take 5 and then they shore up 5.
Yeah.
So they'll take a bunch of vulnerable Dems and make them better. So
it's 3 to 6. It's 3 to 5 pickups and shore ups a bunch of people, but it's not 10 new.
I thought it was
no,
okay.
It's not 10. It's not 10 new.
Yeah, you're taking about 5 of their seats that were vulnerable Dems and pretty much locking them in.
Right. Okay. 108, please, on the Senate. Democrats always are going to root. Sorry, Freudian slip. The media.
By the way, I will say this on this thing. Just remember, one of the things that we just overlooked was Texas Dems are sort of saying they're ready to come back.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is important. I tend to believe, guys, this is what I said this at the outset. Part of the reason I was a little worried about this, I don't think that Gavin Newsom's going to get away with it at the ballot. But if theoretically, if he does, which I don't, I mean, it's California, and if they frame this right and it's low turnout, they could win it. If we go through all this in net zero, then I think we've created, like, Republicans, this is not good for the party. And I think that they better be ready to have a plan to go to Ohio and Missouri and Indiana.
White House called Indiana. It's calling Indiana into the White House.
Yeah.
But they've got to make sure that, like, if we're going this way, you got to be willing to go all in.
They are, and they'll get more seats out of it than the Democrats will. And I still don't understand the coverage of this. Here's another thing where the coverage is skewed for the Democrats. The press is going to cheer for the Democrats to win back the Senate, and they're going to pretend that it's really possible. And the Democrats, we've talked about it here already, they've improved their position. Here's the Politico headline. The Senate map suddenly looks a lot better for Democrats. True, but still not a slam dunk. Well, to say the least, it's still not a slam dunk, because right now there's really no path for the Democrats. Even with good recruits, they're not a sure thing to win these races. And even if they do, they still are behind. There's still not an obvious way to get there, and they have an imperiled incumbent. So we're waiting to see if they can recruit a candidate in Maine. We're waiting to see if they can recruit a candidate in what's the other state that's still pending?
Well, your tease about Beshear was interesting in Kentucky.
That's right, in Kentucky. So, because if Beshear's the nominee, he'll probably be the senator. So that'd be a pickup. Yeah.
I mean, look, you say, Mark, this is starting to remind me a little bit about 2006, because in Maine, Janet Mills is not saying no. She is the sitting governor. In some polls, she leads Collins. Now this is like Charlie Brown with the football with Democrats in Maine. But look, there is a potential path.
There is a potential path.
Cooper in North Carolina, if Brown in Ohio, if Janet Mills runs in Maine, and Beshear runs in Kentucky. Now you got to hold Georgia. That's the one where I think Democrats are still very nervous. But is it inconceivable? In 2006, the path did not appear until Jim Webb won that primary.
100%.
Suddenly, people started to say, "So
they could have the House and Senate. That's what's changed this week is they could
win nothing,
and they could win nothing.
That's right.
Sean, this like Brown in Ohio. Again, I asked this question yesterday, I think on my other show, about trying to rough up Newsom. Like, shouldn't Republicans be going hard after Brown now to try to kill him in the crib and make sure he doesn't become a formidable force in Ohio? Because he could win that race if he comes in strong.
Yeah, I just don't think. I mean, look, I've been around the park. I worked at every one of the R committees, the NRSC, the NRCC. You just don't have the resources, or it's just one of those things. You just don't do it that early in a cycle. Maybe they should. I mean, I will classically never forget a conversation I had with someone at the NRSC back when Todd Aiken was running against Claire McCaskill. And I said, should we not take her? I mean, we had all these things about her husband's plane, all this stuff. And they're like, nope, we're going to wait. And then Aiken did what Aiken did.
Yeah. And
it was too late. So I would be a fan of that. I'm generally a fan of getting somebody dirtied up early on. I just don't know who that. I mean, if I think this is where, like I was noting yesterday, if this was Bernie Moreno, I would be sleeping a lot sounder because he's got a machine. He's got the MAGA infrastructure. He's got the ability to raise money, and he has money. So I think the team there has to say, what do we do, and use the super PAC for these kind of things. I just don't know that they've got it. And that's the difference where I look at some of these. Obviously, I think Ashley Moody in Florida played it perfectly. But then I look here and I go, did these guys, like, it feels like they named Husted to the job and then sort of said, good luck, take care. Totally. We'll see you after college, kid.
Here's the significance. And Dan and John will both appreciate it, but Dan in particular, since he's got a fundraising background. What Schumer's done that's significant is he now can tell donors with a straight face, we can be the majority.
Yep.
And Democrats are behind in fundraising in a way that is really significant in the House and the Senate. This could equalize that super PAC campaign money. And that's huge because last cycle Schumer said that and the donors didn't take it seriously because it wasn't serious. It was all just made up. This is now getting real enough that it could equalize the fundraising. All right, we're going to do winners, losers, and what to watch for. And then if you're here in the two-way platform, take your questions. So please raise them high, particularly if you've never been on the platform before. We'd love to have your question. And I'll say again, please go to the podcast platforms and subscribe to this program as a podcast. I saw in the chat, which I don't read, but I glanced at. Thank you, Greg, for confirming that some of you are confused. Just go to any podcast platform, bring up the morning meeting, and it'll give you some ideas. Sometimes it'll be subscribe, sometimes it'll be like, whatever it is. Just do the thing that shows you want to be part of the program on whatever. And someone asked, does it matter if you do it on YouTube? Well, sure, do it on YouTube too. But the whole point is Sean does not want to be behind Chris Hayes for another second on the Apple ratings. And Dan has to tell his children, Ted Cruz's podcast is more popular than mine, kids. Let's not like send Dan into the weekend having to tell his kids that. So please, Apple, Spotify particularly, go like, subscribe, download, whatever you want to do. All right, Dan, winner of the week.
We just talked a little bit about it. Kirsten Gillibrand, she is the chair of the DSCC. Big recruiting win with Sherrod Brown, and it sounds like they may be getting closer with Janet Mills in Maine.
Dan, Sean, can I just real quick? I give Schumer the credit for that. Yeah, I know that she has the job, but does she have a role that we're not seeing?
I mean, look, I think it's Schumer. The leader is always kind of.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that, like,
Schumer lets her know it's happening.
Exactly, and Schumer makes sure all credit goes to Chuck Schumer.
No, but you guys, I mean, like, there are some chairs that are very. Tom Davis, I think, at the end.
Okay. Yeah, no. Look,
she's involved. She's involved.
So I'll give her credit. She's the chair.
Yeah. Okay. Sean, winner of the week.
Play us in. All right, there you go. These are Florida citrus apples. This is a big week for Maha and Florida. Why? Marty McCary there, the FDA commissioner, does a video if you want to see it. Go to Secretary Rollins' feed, or I retweeted it. And bottom line is Florida oranges every year have been losing a little bit of natural sugar, and they now don't qualify to be able to be made into orange juice. So we, by U.S. standards, have to import oranges from Brazil and other countries to make orange juice. McCary and Rollins have changed the standard to make sure that we now qualify. I know this sounds petty, but this is the perfect point of Trump. We've taken an American product, allowed us to maximize its use, and then also gotten rid of a stupid regulation that said that 64% of purity versus or sugar content versus 63 is the threshold. So I'm a big fan of this because I think it's emblematic of how we're doing smart government things now that grow our country and can keep us healthier.
Adorable answers from both of you, but the winner of the week are Swifties. Dan, loser of the week.
No, come on.
I like Sean's. That's a pretty darn good one. My loser of the week is Israel. Not only did Pete Buttigieg, I've never seen a candidate backpedal so fast on the Democratic side, but on the Republican side, you had the story that Steve Bannon, I think it was either suspended a correspondent who went on an AIPAC funded trip or was going to go on an AIPAC funded trip to Israel to kind of understand it better. We talked about it earlier in the week. Israel is losing the right and the left base.
I agree with Michael Granoff. The loser of the week under your rubric would be Pete Buttigieg. But Sean, loser of the week.
My loser of the week are a family from your neck of the woods up there, the Baileys. Let me explain to you who the Baileys are. Take a look.
He's an insurance adjuster and lives in the New York suburbs. By New York standards, he makes $50,000 a year. If he lived in the middle of the country, he'd make 40. Wife works in a medical office. She makes about 20. She might make 15 elsewhere. And you know, I have guided my political life through the Baileys.
The Baileys have guided Chuck Schumer's political life, which is a little weird given they don't exist. Seriously,
So it's a 7-minute clip that is worth watching. I've reposted it. Chuck Schumer has been talking about this family, the Baileys, for decades. And according to John Oliver there, they don't exist. By the way, the Baileys both voted for Trump. And this is an individual who's leading the Democratic Senate caucus saying that he guides his political career off the Baileys, which is good to know. He might want to readjust his political thinking. But anyway, it's one of the best 7 minutes that I've ever watched on YouTube.
Sean, here's what I don't understand. The fact that the Baileys are fake has been known forever. You ever heard of Dickie Flatt, a printer from Mahia, Texas? You ever heard of him?
I've
heard of him? Dickie
vaguely.
Flatt? Yeah, Phil Gramm, when he was a senator, did the exact same thing. When he wanted to make a point about policy, he would talk about Dickie Flatt, a printer from Mahia, Texas.
Right.
Phil Gramm would say, try as he might, he never could quite get the ink out from under his fingertips. So I don't understand why all of a sudden Chuck Schumer is a loser for talking about this when he's been talking about it and acknowledging it's not real forever.
Well, I think what made it funny was, again, it's the 7 minutes. It's John Oliver, obviously someone on the far left going after him. But the compilation itself was great. But the bigger point is, at the end of the day, Phil Gramm's example or, various others are people who exemplify why they fight for their policies. Chuck Schumer is saying these people, when he just got asked recently about how they voted in the 2024 election, says they voted for Trump. So if you're going to talk about someone and make up a family that you guide your political career by and the decisions that you make on policy, you might not want them to be pro-Trump if you're the leader of the Democratic caucus.
I'll just extend it by saying his point is saying the party has a problem. We've lost people like the Baileys to Donald Trump. We need to change.
Can I ask this, Mark? Are you really John Bailey? Is that what you it sounds to me that you're very defensive of the Baileys.
No.
I'm wondering if you are you a Bailey?
I agree that the Oliver segment was very well produced and it's funny, but I'm just confused why he could have done this piece 5 years ago. Nothing happened new. Just John Oliver suddenly stumbled upon the Baileys. I just got a text from the person who invented the Baileys, by the way. All right.
Oh, interesting.
My loser of the week is the critics who have assured us that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance want to destroy America's relationship with Europe. Because, in fact, been reported now several places, the vice president and the Europeans had a great week preparing for this meeting. And Donald Trump and J.D. Vance want a strong relationship with Europe. They just want to change. So sorry to those critics who've said they were destroying it. Dan, what are you looking for this weekend?
The reaction of Zelensky to what happens this afternoon.
Oh,
Sean.
Marco Rubio's doing not the full Ginsburg, but whatever the slimmed down version is Sunday on the talk shows. I want to see how he portrays this. I mean, the obvious answer is Russia and the fallout, but I think Rubio on Sunday will be able to be the one who's the face of it. So I want to see how he describes this.
Rubio's doing 3 of the 5 shows, and Witkoff is doing the other 2. So we'll see. I'm looking for this, and I want to ask you this question. A serious question. What's the % chance that the United States arrests Putin today? That's what I'm looking for. Dan, what's the % chance they arrest him as a war criminal? 0. Sean?
0.
Okay. When it happens, we'll post this moment. And I'll just say before we take your questions, we two-way tonight is on the 2028.
Wait, do you disagree?
Yeah.
Do you disagree?
Oh no, I think they're going to arrest him. I think that's the whole thing is to trick him to come into the U.S. and going to arrest him. He's a war criminal.
That he is, but
so let's see. But we may do my point is we may do a special report. Just we'll see this weekend. That's one thing to look for is if we decide to do a special report because they've arrested Putin. All right, let's go to your questions now. As always,
that would be news.
Please. Did I not say Dickie Flat? I'm seeing somebody texting me. Didn't I say Dickie Flat?
Dickie Flap?
That's what
Flat.
You
did.
I texted it before you mentioned it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Got it. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, take your questions. As always, please unmute. Tell us where you are, what's on your mind. And we'll start with Sean. Sean, welcome in. Thank you for joining the two-way. Tell everybody where
you are. Rhode Island.
Wow, I never get to join the morning meeting because I'm here in LA, West Coast time. So I'm excited. First time on morning meeting.
Honored to have you here.
Thank you. Since I have a bunch of questions, but I'll try to limit it and make it fast. If what Trump does in DC is successful, he did appoint himself head of the U.S. task force for the Olympics for LA. Do you think he would try to potentially do something? I know there's no home rule. Obviously, it's a federal district in DC, but how could Trump theoretically try to do the same thing if he's successful in different cities?
Yeah, great question.
And maybe what he would do it in LA.
Yep, great question, Sean. What do you think? Hold on, let him answer that one. Sean,
okay.
What are your thoughts?
So there's 2 separate things. If you're asking specifically about the Olympics, that will be deemed a there's an acronym special.
Yeah, after 9/11, it's the Department
after
of
9/11. So you get deemed. So Super Bowls, World Series,
convention.
Conventions. They're all named. The Secret Service has a term. It's like something special event. I used to know it off the top of my head. That will give them a little bit more authority, but it would be very specific to the event and the perimeter, et cetera. I think there is a National Guard aspect that he could employ, but again, it's a little different because the role of the National Guard, they're not armed. What they're doing, they don't have arrest powers. Where he's been successful in DC is utilizing all of the 3-letter, like the FBI has its own police force, Park Police has a police force. I think at one point, and I know that I'm going to get this wrong, but there were something like 28 police forces within the capital region. Like everybody's got they call them 1811s, federal law enforcement officials.
Yep.
That are an 1811 is a universal term within the federal government to determine someone that's got federal arrest authority, et cetera, et cetera. And so they have a ton of these, and you can deploy them within the capital region because that's where their authority is. It would be a little bit harder in like LA or Chicago or New Orleans because it's anyway. So I think there would be a little bit of a difference there, and especially if you have a governor and a mayor that is going to push back. And I don't know that. I would just say this: I would keep an eye on the legal maneuvering that they would do, but it's clearly DC is a very unique situation because of home rule.
Dan.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Sean. The Olympics will be safe and secure. There'll be security perimeters around all the events, around the Olympic Village. They'll have, road closures. So the entire country security apparatus will be there to help ensure that the games are safe and secure. What I would imagine they're going to clear out homeless and things like that, just because they're going to need to have transportation and they want to paint the bridges and everything that we would do no matter where it is. I think as far as Trump, replicating this, he's got to be careful. It's not just blue cities and blue states, because it starts to look super partisan. I mean, and if I were the Democrats, I would start saying that. Why aren't you going after the most unsafe places?
Sean,
They
can you
happen
ask
to be in red states?
Yeah, Sean, can you ask your second question briefly? Is that possible?
Yeah. I don't understand why Trump has approached the tariff situation by country as opposed to by industry. And why not try to, identify certain industries that he wants to reshore and, try to get more, as opposed to maybe, tackling China short because he's
done some of that, but it's hard to negotiate with a sector, right? He's trying to gain the leverage over individual countries. So there has been some sector targeting, but I think that would be my explanation.
And then one last question, if I could. Is there any chance of multi-member districts by state as opposed to all this gerrymandering?
No.
You know what? Because I don't like any of those shenanigans.
So in some legislatures, you will have a District 8, and that will have 2 assembly members in it, 1 senator. Right? That's what you're talking about. Yeah. States do that. There's the federal government's very clear about how it has to apportion members of Congress.
Yeah, Sean, thank you. Well, the states actually have a fair amount of leeway, I think, in picking how they like.
But you think you could have a multi-member district?
You could. The state. I mean, it's never been tested, but the preponderance of legal view is the states have deference to setting the rules of how they select their members of the House.
I guess as long as you have
the same number,
requisite number. Yeah.
So we talk often about the power of the two-way community and how you all are so connected to us and mobilizing. At the top of the program, we showed you that the morning meeting was 59th among news podcasts in the Apple ratings. And we asked you all to mobilize and move us up. And I'm here to report that we've dropped from 59 to 64, and we're now behind John Podhoretz, the commentary podcast. So, please redouble your efforts on Apple because now Sean and Dan are dealing with not just being.
I've been getting chats from John Podhoretz, so he's doing an entire guerrilla campaign right now.
The chatbots, the Russian chatbots.
Not only is Dan behind Ted Cruz and Sean behind Chris Hayes, but they're both behind John Podhoretz now. Please don't let that stand. Michelle, welcome in. Thank you for being part of Two-Way. Please unmute. Tell folks who don't know where you are.
West side thing.
What's on your mind for Sean and Dan?
Well, I'd like to say good morning.
Morning.
I'm glad I had 24 hours to calm down about Chris Simmons' remarks yesterday.
I could say, Michelle, we're all still very agitated by what Chris said.
He came on the group chat and kept going.
Really?
Oh, yeah, he did. He
well,
sure did.
I'll share with you, I'm in upstate New York, Rochester, New York. And of course, you all know that I came on just after the election.
That's what I was thinking,
to say that I voted for Donald Trump. And I sort of stepped back because I have to remember that this platform, I'm grateful for it because there's conversation on both sides of the aisle. And Dan, I'm glad that you're willing to engage with conservatives on Fox. I'm always cheering for you when I see you.
Thank you.
I'm a little disturbed because violence in cities, I don't care whether they're blue or they're red, there's a bigger issue, and most white people don't want to say the truth out loud. These young kids are not having to come home and face a father in the home pretty generally. And I raised 4 kids in a home with a master sergeant, my husband. So if my kids got through me, which was very difficult, they had to face their father. So when we talk about Donald Trump going into DC, I, for one, cheered it. It's not a good look But I would say the violence in cities is off the charts, whether we want to talk about it or not, or the cause of it or not. My brother-in-law was shot to death in Rochester, New York, by kids who wanted cigarettes. So I would like to see more politicians, rather than being partisan, address urban issues without trying to make inroads for their party.
All right, Michelle, let's let Dan and Sean respond to what you've said so far. Dan.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great set of points. We're talking very high level. I mean, another huge issue here is the district attorneys and what they're enforcing, and the homes, or the homes that these kids don't have. There's a lot of layers to this, to your point. But I think everyone should agree that crime should not be acceptable, and public safety is number one, whether it's the safety of this nation and then the safety of your community and your house or your home. And people should do everything. And that's why I keep saying the Democrats are making a huge mistake focusing on Trump, not focusing on this issue.
Sean.
Michelle, I'm sorry to hear what your family's experience has been. I'm glad to know your kids had such a great role model in both of you, because I think that's fantastic. And I think that's what's been difficult about the past few years, COVID on, is the difficult ability to have these discussions about where things really are and why they are, because we sort of are afraid to. I mean, I did this thing on my show yesterday where the president's fitness test came out, and you can argue. It's just everybody now wants to be outraged about everything and say, oh my God, this is going to hurt somebody's feelings, as opposed to, wow, we have massive obesity rates. How do we deal with this with kids, right? So we've got so instead of doing that, we mock the fitness test and say it's going to cause all of these kids to have anxiety, as opposed to, well, they're going to get obese and die from type 2 diabetes. Like, stop coddling us from the real problems. And one of the things that I had this discussion with the DC police union chief the other day. When you go through DC, one of the biggest problems, and Janine Pirro talked about it, is kids in gangs, 15, 16, 17-year-olds that literally know they're immune from the law. I don't mean to sound like the old guy now, but when I was a kid, the idea of getting arrested or getting in trouble or your parents getting a phone call was enough to just – that ended the conversation. I don't want to get in trouble. I can't imagine getting arrested. Now there's no fear of that. It's, what are you going to do? There's no record. You're not going to arrest me. You're not going to punish me. So why not? And I think that we've got to at least at some point feel like these discussions are worth having again. I appreciate your comments today.
Well, I will say real quick, because I know you want to get to more people. I will say that I heard Harold Ford talk about going to Congress and doing a crime bill again. Again, these are not issues that are going to be solved by the National Guard in one city. It's not. Except, though, I'd like to hear what the Democratic solutions are.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking to Donald Trump and you're angry with him. Give them some solutions.
Michelle, thank you.
Okay.
Your words gave us all stuff to think about and caused Chris to raise his hands, but unfortunately we don't have time. So Michelle,
Okay.
thank you for being part of Two Way. Sean, what do you have tonight?
Tonight, Robert Cahaly of the Trafalgar Group, they have formed a new consortium to talk about how to poll better and what standards should be. We're going to break down who the good pollsters are, who the bad pollsters are, the state of the country, and what we need to look for as we head into the midterms.
Okay. At least two ways left today. First, 4 o'clock, Ethan Strass joined by our friend Nancy Rommelman. Please join them at 4 on Two Way, Random Offense. And then at 6, episode we recorded yesterday, Alex Castellanos and then the authors of Fight, John Allen and Amy Parnes talk about 2028. And we talk about Gavin Newsom. We talk about the vice president. We talk about Marco Rubio. We talk about Wes Moore and some of the dynamics coming up in the presidential. And I'll say, not credit to me, but to the three of them, it's the most sophisticated conversation you'll hear anywhere about where the race currently stands. And believe me, the race is underway. As I said, if Putin's arrested or there's some other big news, we'll may hit you with the special report. So watch the various two-way accounts on Twitter, and our website and my Substack will notify you if we're going to be jumping on the air to report on what's happening. Finally, again, thanks to all of you sending in potential theme songs for the program. We're going to play off the air with what Sean requested, which is a straight up country version. See if you like that. You can comment in the chat. I promise to look at the chat. And again, please use the opportunity, if you haven't yet, to subscribe, like, download, whatever, the new version of this program, available now as a podcast shortly after we go off the air. It's not live, but it's available shortly after we go off the air, 10 Eastern time. Thank you for being part of Two Way. We'll see you later, and we'll see you Monday morning for this program. Paul, hit it.
Well, now y'all wake up, grab the coffee cup, the rooster's crowing, time to saddle up. Mark's on the mic with a wink and grin. It's a two-way show, let the day begin. The morning meeting's on the two-way line. Kick up your boots, y'all, we're feeling fine. From the left to the right, everybody belongs at the two-way table where we're singing this song. Mark's the captain, runs this boat with a steady hand and a southern note. Says he don't read that chat too much, but somehow still stays in touch. Old Dan rolls in with a pocket square, sharp as a tack, got that TV stare. Talks to left with a gentle tone, best dressed Democrat you've ever known. Now Sean steps up, knows the game by heart. From the White House days, he plays his part. Before you leave, he'll make his play with one more thing he's gotta say. Peace and love, that's how we roll. Presume the grace, it feeds the soul. From the big old city to the country ground, two ways the place where friends are found. The morning meeting's on the two-way line. Kick up your boots, y'all, we're feeling fine. From the left to the right, everybody belongs at the two-way table where we're singing this song.
All right, 4 seconds to number one. I like it. Winner, winner. John, how is your first shot box?
The morning meeting's on the two-way line. Kick up your boots, y'all, we're feeling fine. From the left to the right, everybody belongs at the two-way table where we're singing this song.
Yeah, Dan, I agree. We can short this up a little.
Table where we're singing this song.
Gentlemen,
All right.
do we have a new number one?
I mean, this is maybe tied with number one. Yep.
Sean?
I would go with it if I can get Dan there, I'm in.
Yeah, we got to shorten it a little bit, a little long, but
we need a yeehaw at the end. At the end, a full-on yeehaw.
All right, we'll have
but
more on this.
I want to reserve the right because
yeah.
these are getting better and better. I would like to know my options.
All right, submit more. We're going to post them all eventually and let everybody vote. But Sean and Dan will, of course, have final say. Thank you all for watching. All you all for watching. Howdy, and happy Summit Day, and we'll see you soon.
Well,
Thanks.
cowboy
No,
hats.
hold on. You got to end like this. Y'all come back on Monday, you hear?
Yeah, well done.
Thanks everybody for submitting. They're fantastic, and we love them all. But
Dean from Ohio.
Dean's incredible. Thank you all. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you later.
Bye-bye.